Now that Hermann Prime is in game, I would bet you that we're going to start to see Tommy get used in the open field more, because the two of them both work off of a poison synergy. So in this video, I want to get a look at how well this combo does, and I've got some preliminary test results to show you. So let's get a peek. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and today's video is sponsored by the makers of Rise of Kingdoms. And I've got to give a big shout out to my channel member, Revelate, who went in and did a bunch of testing on our behalf, because although I don't have Hermann and Tommy maxed on the same account, I maxed Hermann Prime on my restart account, Revelate went in and tested 5551 Hermann Prime with Tommy, and then maxed out as Hermann Prime, and did more testing with Tommy. So we're going to get a look at those results, but before we do, I want to talk about why it is that the two should be very strong together. And I think the synergy here is pretty obvious, but it's all about this poison synergy. Hermann Prime cares about stacking poison onto the target, and when he does, when he's maxed out, if you have put a total of 25 stacks of poison onto a target, then you're going to get an extra activation of his active skill. This is huge. It's more area of effect damage and more stacks of poison. However, upon watching my 5v5 duel footage with Hermann Prime, card will be in the end screen in case you haven't seen it, I drew the conclusion that Hermann Prime is going to lose duels but win KVKs. And the reason he is going to win KVKs for your kingdom is he is going to make targets taken upwards of those 15 stacks of poison. That's 45% skill damage taken. Now, once people saw that footage, as I was saying, they started to draw the opposite conclusion about Tommy. Although she will be powered up a lot, the fear is that we actually want all those poison stacks to stick around, not clear them off. Now, this is where Tommy gets very interesting. She clears off the poison stacks and is doing 80 damage factor per stack when you have more than 10 stacks. So you're looking at 1,000 damage factor base plus 15 times 80. That's another 1,200 damage factor, all said and done. So you're looking at 2,200 damage factor, which, when you start to say that out loud, that's not all that impressive, is it? I mean, we have 2,700 damage factor with no drawback on Huo, for example. So I think that Tommy is going to be good, but is she going to be busted? Well, the passive skill over here is pretty good too. Just a reminder, you have a 10% chance to reduce the target's defense by 30%. This is going to stack with Hermann Prime's passive 20%. So the two of them as a pair could passively reduce the target's defense by 50% combined, which is pretty good. And let's not forget that she also has a museum buff. This museum buff is also very, very, very strong. This is going to be relevant to the testing because, unfortunately, Revelate did not have this buff at the time of the test. 10% extra march speed is amazing for the open field, and 15% health is the truth. It's so good. So let's go get a look at these test results, and then let's go talk about them. He says, hello, sending full battle reports of Hermann Tommy, since I didn't really do analysis of them yet, other than it doesn't seem like a good dueling pair. We did the testing out of alliance, no gear, no formation. I got stuck with justice on Revelate, so I equipped a 5% archer attack city skin on Revelust, which is presumably his alt. So let's get a look here. Battle with Revelust. This is a Nevsky Joan versus Hermann Prime Tommy. This is a 5-5-5-1 Hermann Prime. There's also no museum buff on Tommy. 14,000 to 28,000. They got 2 for 1, which, like, you'd kind of expect them to get wrecked in this situation. A big part of the synergy here is having the expertise on Hermann Prime. So one thing we can draw right away as a conclusion is you probably don't want to pair them together if you do not have Hermann Prime expertise as well. It's just not going to do it. Next report, he ran it back, same result, 15,000 to 28,000. Again, no museum buff on the Tommy here. And you've got the Hermann Prime 5551. Next report is against Skippy Liu Che. The Skippy in this case is not maxed, but funny enough, he barely gets anything when he is maxed in this situation. He's giving you 10% extra skill damage when maxed out, and also 30% extra rage restoration when your target is silenced. And that combo wrecks Revelust here with the 5551 Hermann Tommy combo. Now, if there's anything you could take away from this, by the way, it might actually be that Skippy Prime, even when unmaxed, is freaking goated. The dude is just a beast. He ran back that combo and got 16,000 to 27,000. So this is really cool, and I'm showing you this because now we can compare to how different it looks if you actually max out your Hermann Prime. So let's go get a look at those reports. Shockingly, this result is not much different than the 2-for-1 report we saw before, 16,500 to 27,500. I really would have expected having Hermann Prime expertise would have done much more for us here. And if we just get a look at the battle log, like we can actually see the poison stacks apply in sort of real time here. So the thing I want to get a look at in this part of the log is how quickly we get an extra activation of Hermann Prime's active skill with Tommy being involved to deploy poisons. And we see that Hermann Prime uses his active skill on turn 9. We get a second of downtime, then Tommy uses her active skill. And as we cruise through the log again, we see on turn 16, an activation of the Hermann Prime active skill. We can scroll in here and see that. Let's just observe it here. Here it is. Hermann Prime cast, Forest of Fallen Eagles. So then 2 turns later, you should have the Tommy ability, and it's been 18 turns. So we should be like really close to getting an extra activation of an active skill for free here. Let's see here. Tommy cast Arrows of Vengeance. It did 3,117 damage factor. All right. So then a couple turns later, there it is. We see Hermann Prime is going to have his active skill trigger. And let's see. Forest of Fallen Eagles doing 4,320 damage. Boom. We should then see a couple seconds later, Hermann Prime use his active skill again for starting his rage cycle all over again, which, there it is. Okay. So it took, with Tommy, a long time to actually get to the point where we got a free active skill. It took 21 turns to get to the point where we got a free active skill when we're just hitting one target. Now, this should be way faster when you're hitting multiple targets. At the end of the day, the Hermann Prime only really pops off in group fights. In duels, he honestly kind of sucks. Like, you have to be hitting multiple targets in order to get the extra activations of his active skills in a reasonable time frame. I mean, if you're just hitting one target, the expertise of Hermann Prime is going to do almost nothing for you. So he really only shines in big fights. So anyways, he's getting wrecked here. And this result is, not great. He ran that test again, 16,800 to 27,000. So the Hermann Tommy combo is getting pretty sauced here. There's just no way around it, all right? Let's get a look at the next report. Here we are against the not maxed Skippy Africanus here, 19,000 to 27,000 almost. It's 26,600. I can show you that the Liuch is maxed and the Skippy is not. And I've got one more result to show you. Now, this one's actually a lot closer than I would have expected. It's 20,000 to 26,500. This is pretty close in this particular report. Again, this is a 5553 on our Skippy Prime, Max Hermann, Max Tommy, no museum buff. So I definitely think that Tommy is going to be viable. Do I think she is going to be meta? I'm kind of on the fence on that one. Here's what I think is going to be your meta archers. This is my opinion here, and maybe this is a hot take, but I feel like area of effect damage is just looking better and better and better, and I've always been a big advocate of area of effect damage. And although I do think that Tommy's debuffs are absolutely cracked, and that she's going to have really, really, really good damage when everybody is stacking poison all over the place, I would not put her in the top open field combos for archers right now. In fact, I might make the argument that your top open field archer combination is going to be Ashurbanipal primary with Hermann Prime secondary, and then Boudica Prime with Zhuge Liang. If you are running 2 pairs, I think that's going to be the jam, because Ashurbanipal is actually just cracked, and I can't wait to test him. I'm hopeful that I'll be able to do that this Saturday in a live stream, so consider subscribing. I am quite confident someone will have him maxed, but I may have some really major family obligations that are just happen to overlap here with when he's released into the game. So we'll see. Consider subscribing. If it's not the day of that I do testing and make a vid, I certainly will follow up very quickly with testing and a video, and you're not going to want to miss it. Also, I've got to put out some guidance around the best archer pairs for the open field, but I kind of like to play with Ashurbanipal a little bit before I draw those conclusions. So we'll see if I jump right in or if I get a little testing in first. I think I want to do the testing. So with all that said, by the way, am I going to have Ashurbanipal? I actually will not have Ashurbanipal, which means for those of us that won't have him maxed out right away, what does that look like? So I think you have several options. One option is to go Boudica Zhuge Liang and then go and pair Hermann Prime with Tommy. Seems pretty straightforward. The other route to go is to say, I don't know that I believe in Tommy after all this, even though we know, by the way, in a 7v7 duel, that was like the big secret technology that Baba used, and he won in his duel against Leopard. And I know it's just one duel, and duels have randomness. You'll check that video out. Card is in the end screen. It was a major 7v7 duel. The point I'm trying to make is I think Tommy's pretty good, but if you're not bought in, I'll simply point out that you could go with a more standard route and stick with Boudica Artemisia and then go and use Hermann Prime as a secondary to Zhuge Liang. And I think that will also still be great. Now, I would not go and invest in Artemisia right now. I wouldn't put Sculptures into her, even though I think she's super viable, because, I mean, like, you probably already have an Isong, and you could just go Boudica with Isong, and, like, that would also be outstanding, all right? But now I'm getting way off the deep end on what I think the best archer pairs are. Video to follow, probably after we do some Ashurbanipal testing. If you enjoyed the vid, throw a like on here, subscribe to the channel, check those cards in the end screen, and until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.